Mr Speaker, I think that speech just proved what we know, that the budget showed that the government is out of touch and out of ideas. Out of ideas because the things that they're trumpeting here tonight are things that they took from what Labor was on about, and then they watered it down. They watered it down substantially. In fact, so much so that 26 weeks paid parental leave became just 16 weeks paid parental leave. So next year, only 2 weeks additional weeks of paid parental leave, and then not till the following year an additional 2 weeks. That is what you call next to nothing. The only thing that was less than that the government could have done with paid parental leave was to do nothing. And that clearly wasn't an option for the government because of the Labor Party bill that is in front of this parliament right now that commands a majority in this parliament. So they did the very least they thought they could get away with. And no one believes that it is authentic for the national government to at all have New Zealanders believe that this is something they've wanted to do, that this is their idea. The truth is, the New Zealand public has witnessed the National Party being dragged kicking and screaming towards extending paid parental leave at all, and it's not authentic for the government to argue any other way. So they're out of ideas, and they're having to come to this side of the parliament to look for the way forward. Well, look, New Zealanders can just cut out the middleman and actually get a Labor-led government in place. Cut out the middleman, get a Labor-led government in place, and we will do it properly. We'll actually do it properly and make sure that families are properly resourced, because all of the information and evidence and research tells us that it's not just doing a little election year gimmick like 16 weeks paid parental leave that will make a difference for families. It's actually listening to the research and evidence and understanding that 26 weeks paid parental leave is what we need to get to, because that's when the health benefits come in. That is when we know that children have had that opportunity to form that really good close bonding and attachment with their parents that will turn them into resilient and well-balanced citizens. And that is when we know that parents will feel better about returning to the paid workforce, knowing that they've actually had that valuable time with their newborn baby. So, sadly, turning it into an election year gimmick that the National Party has done actually just undervalues it. It diminishes families, and it diminishes the views of all the people and the organisations like Plunkett, like Barnardo's, that have come forward and come out in support of getting it right, doing it properly, getting 26 weeks paid parental leave. So we know they're out of ideas, but we also now know that they're out of touch. Why do we know that they're out of touch? Because the big problems that New Zealanders are struggling with day to day were not even mentioned in this budget. No attempt to deal with the issues that matter. No attempt to deal with the issues that matter. Issues of housing that are of deep concern to New Zealanders who are trying to enter into the housing market and get their first house. Deep issue for people who actually are wanting to get into any sort of decent house at all. And in Hamilton, we're facing a situation right now where we've got vacant state houses lying around while people can't even get on the waiting list of Housing New Zealand and having to stay with relatives, having to go to camping grounds, having to sleep out of their cars and in other people's garages because they cannot get on the waiting list for Housing New Zealand in Hamilton. And yet there are empty state houses littering our neighbourhoods. And the people of Hamilton are asking what is going on. Well, what's going on is that government is reneging on its responsibilities to provide decent housing. That's what's going on. And nothing in this budget, budget, Mr Speaker, will do anything to address those very immediate and those very real concerns. But we also know that they're out of touch, because when they did move, when they were pushed into putting some money into supporting families, it wasn't all families. Not all families benefit from this budget. They chose to leave out the lowest income, most vulnerable children. Well, Tim McIndoe, you did. Your government did. It is absolutely correct. Who misses out on the parental tax credit? You? Well, Maggie Barry probably does because she's not having children. I'm not having children anymore. I'm going to declare it. My childbearing days are over, all right? This has nothing to do with self-interest here. I'm going to declare it. My childbearing days are over, but this is for others. So I'm not concerned about myself. I'm concerned about the generations that come beneath us and the generations still to come. And yeah, I want my grandchildren to have access to decent family support. That's what I want. So it's not about me. It is about that government being out of touch. And they left out the lowest income families from their package for families. So the children of beneficiaries, no, they don't count. They're not valued by a national government. They can go sing for it under a national government. The children of students, so it might be, mature students, second-time round students, they won't get anything out of National's package. And what about the children of those who are actually on ACC payments at the time that they give birth? No, they're not going to get a look in either. So this package was not for all families. And what does that do? It grows inequality. It grows inequality. It's not even as if the national government has turned a blind eye to the current set of inequality settings. They are deliberately growing inequality. And this is how it works. Put up the parental tax credit, extend it for a bit longer, but don't give it to the families who need it most. What that does is it leaves them even further behind. It leaves them even further behind, Mr Speaker, and that can be fixed. It can be fixed by Labor's Best Start policy, because Labor's Best Start policy is for all families. All families will benefit from an additional $60 a week if they have a newborn child. All families. Well, in fact, they'll benefit by at least that, because if they qualify for paid parental leave, they'll get that extended to 26 weeks under a Labor government, and they'll get it extended at a much faster rate than that government is prepared to do. So, by the 1st of July next year, under the election year gimmick that the National Party has reduced it to, only 16 weeks paid parental leave would be achieved under a national government. Under Labor, 1st of July next year, 22 weeks paid parental leave will already be in place. That's the commitment under the Best Start policy, so it's not hard to work out. 16 weeks under a national-led government next year versus 22 weeks under a Labor-led government next year. Not a hard choice for the electorate to make. But wait, there's more. By 2017, Labor will extend paid parental leave by a further 4 weeks to get to that critical number of 26 weeks. And there's nothing magical about that number except that a baby at 6 months old, their development is so much more advanced. And if they've had that time to actually advance their child development, the brain development, the bonding and attachment, while they've had parents who have had that financial stress and worry removed from them so that they can focus on bonding with that newborn baby for that 6-month period, then all of us get to win. All of us get to win, Mr Speaker. So I just want to come back to what has happened last week with that very underwhelming and disappointing budget. It shows us a government that was once ambitious for New Zealand that's completely lost that sense of ambition. Any old thing will do, and any old election year gimmick will do for the National Party. Well, that's not good enough for the Labor Party. They are out of touch, they are out of ideas, and come 20th of September, they'll be out of office.
Mr. Speaker.
Maggie Barry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to speak on the budget debate and the 6th